What's up, good people? Titus here for another Blender tutorial, and in this video I'll show you how to make a simple potion bottle, so let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Alright, the first thing we'll do is we'll press X and delete or sacrifice our default cube to the Blender gods. Then we'll press Shift A, we're going to add mesh, we'll do a single vert, and then add single vert. This should kick you into edit mode automatically, but if not, just hit Tab, and then we're going to press 1 to come to front view, and then I can press E to extrude, and then I'm going to press X to lock it in the X-axis, and then maybe I'll come around here. I'm just going to outline a simple bottle shape, so you don't have to follow this exact shape that I'm doing. Feel free to make any shape you wish. I'm going to hold the control key to do even increments using the grid, and then maybe I'll come right about here, and I'll press E again, I'll extrude maybe right about there. And then I want to do the neckline of the bottle, so I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm just going to bring it in just a little bit. And then I'll press E to extrude again, I'll bring it up, and then instead of going straight, I'll just kind of kick it to the side a little bit. And if I tab into object mode, I kind of have this half shape here, which looks pretty good so far. I'll tab back into edit mode, and I'm going to hold this vertice here, press Control B to bevel, and then you have to press V for vertex, and then I'm going to spin this to maybe 4 segments there, and that way I get like a smoother kind of bottle angle. And then I'm going to select this vert and this vert, press Control B and then V, and I'm going to roll these down to be maybe 2 segments. Yeah, I think 2 segments is probably good. And I just want to smooth out kind of like that angle, so maybe right about there. Just tab into object mode, and this is the shape we're left with, which looks pretty good. I'm going to go to my modifier stack by clicking the spanner or the wrench, and then you can click Add Modifier, choose Generate, and then add the screw modifier. You can see the shape looks very weird, so let's see what's going on. If we click up here for the viewport overlays, we can check the box next to face orientation, and we can see, if you're new to Blender, the red means that these are inside faces, and the blue means those are outside faces. So what's happening is part of the mesh is the inside of it, and the other part is the normal outside part, so it's kind of like basically inverted a little bit. For your screw modifier, if you expand out the normals, there's a few things that might help. We can apply the modifier and then flip the normals that way with Shift N, but there's a calculate button here for calculate order. Sometimes that'll fix it. Other times you might have to use the flip option here as well, and that can sometimes correct it. Now you'll see in my case it looks like it made it all blue, so we're actually good. So I'm going to disable my face orientation here. That looks a little bit better. And then I can actually, I'm okay with the steps or segments, which is 16. You can increase this, but we're going to add a subsurf modifier, so I don't really think it's necessary. So I'm just going to hit the little drop down arrow and just simply hit apply to unlock that geometry. Now one thing I am going to do is, I don't like the bottom part of it, so I'm going to go to face select here. I'll press C for circle select, and I'll select those inside faces, press X, and I'm going to delete faces. Then I'm going to select edge mode, I'll hold Alt, click this inside edge, then I'll press F to fill, and that I think will work out a little bit better for what I'm trying to do here. Now we need to add a bit of thickness to it, so we can add modifier. There's a solidify modifier, so we'll add that. And I'm going to do a 0.05, I think is pretty good. This is going to be like a glass bottle. And then another thing I want to do is, it's pretty rough, so I want to add in a subsurf. So add modifier, generate, add a subsurf there, and that kind of smooths it out a bit. You'll notice the top and bottom look a little weird. Sometimes, if you rearrange your modifiers, so if we do the subsurf first, you might get a better result. Other times, what you can do is tab into edit mode, and sometimes just pressing Control R and adding a support loop here and there will kind of fix a lot of weird shading issues that you might have. So if I press Control R and I bring one down here, and then I can go to face select, and then press I for an inset, and then maybe I'll press I again to do a smaller inset, press G and Z, and then just kind of push it up a little bit. So it's kind of like some of the glass bottles, the inner piece is up a little bit, so maybe you have that sort of shape where it's non-uniform. But so far I think that's pretty good for the glass bottle. So let's go ahead and work on our cork. So we'll do Shift A, add a mesh, and I'm going to use a cylinder. I'll press 1, go into front view, grab Z, drag it up, Alt Z to go into transparency mode, S to scale, and then I'm going to bring it maybe right about there. Make a tab into edit mode. We're in face select. I'm going to select that bottom face, press 1 to go into front view, and then we could just simply scale it in maybe right around there. Come to the top, we'll select the top face here, 1 to front view, and we'll scale in a bit. So our cork is just kind of touching the edges of the glass like that. I think that looks pretty good. Now let's press / to go into isolation mode. And what I'm going to do is right click and do a shade auto smooth. And then I want to bevel the top and bottom. So I'll hold edge select. We got the top one selected, Shift Alt, select the bottom one. And then it's kind of got to look like a cork. So maybe I'll just do 5 segments. So I'll roll my mouse wheel up and then maybe somewhere around there. I think that looks all right. And if you wanted to go crazy, you can go to generate, add a subsurf. I don't really think it's necessary, but we'll leave it in. Press / to come out of isolation mode. And then you may have to scale it back up with the subsurf, but no, it looks like it's all right. So I think we can make that work. The next thing we need to do is we need to create the fluid that's going to be inside our potion bottle. So there's a few ways you could do that. The way I'm going to approach this problem is we'll select the bottle, and I'm going to go to face mode, and then I'm in transparency with Alt Z, and then I'm just basically going to press C for circle select, and I'm going to make a selection around the bottom, and then just kind of drag around to build up where I want the liquid to stop. So I think right around there is probably pretty good. So I'll press enter to lock that in. That's my selection right now. So what you can do is press Shift and D to duplicate, and then you can right click so it snaps back, press P, and then separate by selection, and then we can tab into object mode. I'm going to select the piece that we just created right here, and I'm going to press F2 to rename it, and I'm going to call this the actual potion, and then I'll F2 to rename this to the bottle. And then I will select that and press F2. We'll call this the cork. And that's going to be the main components for it. So let's work on the potion first. I don't think we need these modifiers right now, so we'll get rid of them. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I will go to edge select. I will Alt select the bottom edge there, and then I can press F to fill that. Then I will hold Alt and I will select this top edge here. I want a grid fill, so I can go to face and do grid fill. And then I think you'll want to use 4 sections here. It probably looks good. You want more. Yeah, I think 4 is going to be the best I can do. Yeah, so 4. We'll use 4 for this. And then what we can do is just simply press A to select everything. Right click and subdivide. And I'm going to bump that to 2. You want this amount of this amount of geometry for the potion, because we're going to basically displace it a bit. So you're going to need a little bit more to actually get more motion or movement in the fluid. So right around here looks good. I'll go to face select, and what I can do is select one of the top faces. Then under select menu, I can do select similar, and I'm going to do coplanar. And that'll select my top edge here. Then I can press Control I, so it inverts the selection. Then I can press H to hide it. And then what I can do is select a random face, doesn't matter which one to use. I'll just pick this one for now. I'm going to press O to go into proportional editing. And then if I hit the drop down, I'm going to switch it from smooth to random. Then we can come to front view-ish, and then I'm going to press G, grab in the Z, and then I'm gonna basically push it up, and then I can mouse wheel up or down to basically influence the rest of the top part of the fluid. So I'll maybe go right about there. I think that looks pretty good. And then we tab into object mode, or actually before I do that, Alt-H to bring back the rest of the mesh in case you needed it. Then I will tab into object mode, and we can add a subsurf to this, and you can bump it to as many segments as you need. I'm gonna leave it at 1 for now, because I don't think you're really gonna see the fluid all that much anyways. So now if we press / to come out of isolation view, we now need to scale this fluid so it fits inside the bottle. If I scale it as it is now, it's gonna scale down, because the object origin is sharing the one that we made from the bottle. What you can do is just right click and set origin to geometry. That'll move it center. Then if we come to front view and then try to scale again, actually let me Alt-Z so we can see what we're doing. It scales a little bit more evenly, so you're able to fit it inside the bottle to get a better look. So I'll maybe go right about here. You want to kind of maybe try to avoid touching the bottle, because we're going to add an emission to this, and your emission with your glass material can kind of get some wonkiness. So you want to give a little bit of a gap, so it'll look correct when you start to add materials to it. But yeah, so far so good. I think we are done with the modeling phase, actually. Yeah, so I think this will be our glass bottle. So what we can do is come into our shading workspace, and then I'm going to click the new button to add a new material. And transmission, what that does is basically allows outside light to hit a material and how much of it transmits through the material. So if you have stuff like glass or any type of liquid, you'll typically want a transmission of 1. For liquid, you might want 3/4 or half, because you might want some opaqueness to it. So for transmission, I'm going to set this value to 1 for my glass. And then I'm also going to come to cycles. And then for my cycle settings, I am going to make sure I am GPU compute. There we go. All right, so we can kind of see that effect right there. It gets us pretty much there. The roughness will carry you the rest of the way, so you can adjust the roughness down, completely clear, or you can bump it up a little bit if you want it not to be completely see-through. So maybe I'm gonna go with that. So that's kind of the glass bottle there. Let's select the potion. We'll do a new material for that. And this one's gonna be emission. And we'll also mess with the transmission here in a second. Let's maybe do fun green. And then for strength, maybe I'll do 2. Then we have a fun, I love emission in Blender. It looks really good. Pretty much anything you do, but you get a fun little glow. And you don't have to use green. You can use like whatever color you want. Maybe we do something like that, and that looks fun. And then we can come to the transmission, and because this is a fluid, maybe I'll do a 0.75. And that might change the effect just a little bit, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we can probably leave the, well, if we bring the roughness down a bit, let's see what that looks like. Doesn't really notice too much. Let me put it back, 0.5. Looks the same to me, I can't tell, but all right, let's move on to the cork. So we'll select the cork, add a new material. This one's a little bit trickier. We have to do Shift A, and we're going to add a texture. Oops, we'll search for it. It's the Voronoi texture. So if you click on that, you can pull off the color pin into the base color. And if I move in closer here, you can kind of see what it's doing. And then it's just a matter of bumping the scale, like say I double the scale to like 10. You can basically kind of get like that cork kind of style look. If you want to make some adjustments to like the inner pieces, you can select the texture, press Control T if you have the Node Wrangler add-on, which you can add for free in the preferences. If you don't want to add it, just add a mapping node and a texture coordinate to do this and hook them up like so. I am going to actually switch this to object and to vector. And then you can see you get a much different effect here. So maybe I'll bump this back down to 5 for the scale. And I think that looks okay. Now all we have to do is do Shift A. I'm going to add a color ramp. I'm going to pop this in right there. And the black is fine. I'm going to select the white and we're going to choose a color. And I think corks are typically brown-ish. So, I don't know, maybe somewhere around there. I'll keep it pretty light, so keep it simple. But yeah, I think that looks okay. Next thing we can do is switch from object mode here. We can go into the world outliner, and then maybe I adjust the world to be like black. And then maybe we do Shift A, we add a plane, and then maybe we scale it by 30. Then maybe we select the plane, go back to object. We can add a material to the floor, and then maybe we can do some fun stuff like bring the roughness down a bit. Maybe add a color. What's a fun color we want to use for this? We'll go with like an orangish. Somewhere around there maybe. Usually if you're color wheel, so I would think maybe this might actually work better. Usually want the opposite of what the color clashes. Sometimes that works better. If you subscribe to the color theory. So maybe that looks better. I don't know. All right, but I think that looks okay. So let's come back to layout. I'm gonna go back to cycles view. And then if you wanted something simple, we can just press Control Alt 0 to move the camera to us. We could select the camera like so, press N, go to view. We can lock the camera to viewport and press N, and then just maybe zoom it back a bit. Move it around. Not doing anything fancy, and then we can press F12 to do our first test render. Which actually, before I do that, let's go to compositing. We can also set up some lighting and get fancy with it. This video is already running long, but okay. Let's select compositing. We'll do use nodes, and then what we can do is press N to get rid of this panel. I'm going to drag this out here and this down. I'm going to set this to be the image editor, and then I want to view the viewer node, which has nothing in it right now. And there's nothing showing right now because we haven't done a render. So if we press F12, it'll render the scene. I'll speed this up. Okay, so we got the render completed. We can close out of it. And now what we can do is push Shift A, search for the viewer node, and then I can drag this over here so it actually shows up in the viewer node like so. And then I want to combine these, so I can hold Shift and right click. So it drags them together, and then I can do Shift A, search for glare, so we can maybe play around with a bit of bloom. Right now it's in streaks. I set that to bloom, and we can maybe adjust the size, you know, however fancy you want to make it. Maybe you don't want to use bloom, maybe you want to use fog glow, which I think looks pretty good. Now it basically goes off the light source that we have, so right now there's very low light source, but you know, it doesn't actually look too terrible. So we render that. All right, and then the render pass completes and it adds that composite effect of the glow. If we go, let's maybe add some light to our scene here. So let's unlock the camera to view. And what we can do, select this light source here, come to top view. I'm gonna bring it to the back side, bring it down a smidge. I think that'll be our shadow casting light, which is fine. We'll do Shift A, we will add in a area light. And then I'm going to grab over here in the Z. All right, looks good. And I don't want this to cast shadows. I'm gonna set this to be maybe 100. And then I can Shift D to duplicate this. And I just need to point this over there. Come back to camera view. And now when we render, we should get a different effect with all the extra lights in the scene. All right, not as much as I wanted, so maybe let's go ahead and select the point light. I'm gonna make this maybe like a blue. Let's actually increase the radius. That's probably another part of the issue. All right, maybe somewhere around there. All right, and then let's actually go back to compositing and maybe switch it back to bloom, and let's just lower the bloom somewhere around there. And we'll try one final render, see how we do. Nope, that's too much. All right, so we can go back into our compositing and let's lower that bloom size. And actually, now that we have more light in the scene, fog glow should actually work better. Personally, I think fog glow looks better when done right. Oops. But yeah, not too bad. All right, everyone, I think we'll cut the video here, but I hope you found some informative value that you can take into your own projects. But as always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.